Hello and welcome to another edition of Business and Financial Raw Talk. I am excited because I have a very special guest that's going to be joining us, and it's Women's History Month. Happy Women's History. One thing that I thought about in preparing for just our series of conversations with women was let's kind of push the envelope and shift the narrative and talk about some of those unsaids that we know women are experiencing, but they're not mainstream conversations. So in just a minute, I'm going to have, and I'm going to let you know her name when she comes on the stage, a very special guest. And we're going to talk about transforming, resiliency, identity, and reestablishing yourself in a new environment. So this individual has gone from a refugee to freedom. Refugee to freedom. Let that sink in. We'll be back in just a moment.
Crazy good time.
Hey, Drocella, how's it going?
Excellent, LaWanna. How about you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I want to tell the audience a little bit about you. And I mean, very little, because I want to hear your story from you. And we have none other than the amazing, gifted, talented Drocella Mugorewera. I am determined to get your last name correct.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. And Drocella has a business that deals with helping communities thrive. She's a speaker, she's an author, and she's a coach and trainer. And when we think about Women's History Month and where we stand as women, we always hear like, it's now a woman's time. Well, I kind of think it probably always has been our time based upon the seasons that we're in, but it's just a matter of, will people rise in their calling and sometimes rise in defiance and rise at risk of it all? So I'd like to turn it over to you, Drocella, and I'd like us to talk about this title. You're an entrepreneur, and here we are talking about Women's History Month. It's a celebration, but before you could celebrate, you were under very trying, frightening times where for your own safety, you had to flee. So can you just tell us a little bit about that story of what it means to be forced to flee, and from there, how were you determined to rebuild?
Thank you, Ms. LaWanna. And first of all, congratulations for putting this platform together where people can share, can be inspired, and can connect. I want to start by saying that I spent a couple of years, even without being on the screen. As you said, I fled my country, Rwanda, in 2008 because of persecution based on my political opinion. Once I was a politician, I was a member of the parliament and the government, and I realized that my ideas threatened some people, while the Constitution gave to everyone the right to share ideas. So for you audience, maybe some of them do not know who is a refugee. A refugee is somebody who is forced to flee their country because of persecution based on race, religion, ethnicity, political appartenance, but also they can flee wars and violence. So you see wars and violence everywhere. After surviving the 1994 genocide against Tutsis, that led me to flee to Congo. I never thought that I would flee my country again. So after going to Congo, I spent a couple of months up there, and I came back to my country to help other rebuild my country and also be part of peace building and unity and reconciliation that is keeping going on. You know, LaWanna, even if I was forced to flee my country, I'm grateful for having a chance to shape a country which was torn down humanly, physically, environmentally, you name it. It was just a devastation. So, but you can imagine as a mother freeing your country, leaving behind your children, your husband, your family members, and losing everything you invested in for more than 40 years. Without God, I couldn't survive this situation. And as I said, sometimes I was hiding and just go out of the night, in the middle of the night, so I can see the sky where other people are sleeping. And my life was in the hands of two strange men. They could have raped me, they could have killed me, but trusting God, I counted them as angels that God sent to me to help me escape. And I'm grateful that America gave me a chance to live and serve. So from refugee, you know, with all my experience, I started a job with minimum wage. That time it was $6.55 an hour.
Let's hold right there because I definitely want to get to the U.S. side. I want us to sit in your country for a minute. So you fled Rwanda, went to Congo, went back to rebuild your country, and then had to flee again.
Yes.
So
correct.
did you have to flee based upon the same persecutions as the first time?
Now, the first time it was like fleeing war. So when there are bullets behind you, you have to find a way to go, you know. And the second time, this is where the persecution became harder. But it was for two different reasons. So I was fleeing for people who are fleeing the war, like the majority of the Rwandans. But after, when I went back and became a politician and started to contribute politically, this is where the persecution started.
Now what, and maybe there was no other choice, but what was it that was that decision moment that told you, I have to leave now, and I have to leave not only my things behind, you know, that's replaceable, but you left your family, your children.
Yeah. So the defining moment, LaWanna, was when, after leaving the government, I started to be a consultant. And then while I was going to a conference in Uganda, I was pulled over from airplane. And I spent 2 nights without sleeping. And I said, God, it is finished. I don't have a direction. Where do I go? I was planning to go back, but it did get to the point where I had to choose between life and death. And then I say, God, I don't know where I'm going. I will trust you, and you will find a way to help me to escape. And this is how, miraculously, those two strange men came on my way through a friend I knew long, long ago from college. And I didn't have relationship. It was another miracle, because how I did get his phone number was by God's grace. And then I remember that sometime they were saying that my phone was tracked and we were followed. And then they would took me somewhere I didn't know. They would say, we have to leave this place. I also remember one day I was enclosed in a tiny, tiny room without a bathroom. My bathroom was a small bucket they gave me, and they enclosed me inside from outside. even if something will happen, it will be hard for me to try to escape. But I always, during that tough moment, trusted God's power and promise to keep me alive.
Now, the two gentlemen who you call your angels, were they the ones that helped you to flee and get the escort that you needed to the United States? I mean, how does that process work?
So those two gentlemen were trying to find out how I can escape Uganda first, because this is the neighboring country where I was going to a meeting. But it didn't happen. So through another friend, they were advised me to take me to an embassy, in the European embassy, where I can talk to an ambassador and to try to escape. Gratefully, we did get to that level, but the ambassador told me that they don't do the things they used to do. They said they have to connect me to the United Nations High Commissioner of Refugees. And then they put me in an escorted car so nobody could take me off. And then I went to the United Nations High Commissioner of Refugees. They wanted me to find a safe house in that country. I said no. And they suggested to give me food. I said, I don't want to eat. I just want to live here because I feel like I'm dying. And then they took me with an international organization with migration. They took me to the airport, and then they flew me to another country, Kenya, where they put me under a safe house for almost, I was hiding for almost 9 months before coming to the USA.
Wow. So from Rwanda to the Congo to back to Rwanda to a business trip in Uganda
And
to
then
Kenya in a safe house.
Yes. And
And
then
all this time you're away from your family.
Away from my family. I didn't talk to my family for almost a year. When I happened to talk to my sister afterwards, so she was telling me the children were asking to tell them if their mother was alive, but she didn't know for most of the time, unless where I could communicate with people in Canada who could communicate with my family. So I didn't have any direct communication with my family members. And then I didn't see my children for 2 years. So
you're basically doing a triage type communication, and I guess it protected both you and them,
yes,
right? Because direct communication would have exposed your location.
Yes. Yes. And then when they transitioned, so when my husband came a year after I left and applied for asylum, so asylees also suffer from the same conditions like refugees, but they apply for the status in the US. They come on here with the papers, but they apply for asylum. If you apply for asylum and they don't give it to you, they can send you back home. But through the refugee program, you come with a refugee status, and they can help you to find a job. They can help you to find shelter, food, the basic needs. So within 90 days, so you can start to be self-sufficient, so be able to pay your bills. So I came through the refugee program, and my husband came as an asylee seeker.
So let's pause right there, because this is new for many people watching this. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're here celebrating Women's History Month, and we are here with Drocella Mugorewera, and we are talking about Forced to Flee, Determined to Build, and her journey as a refugee and what she's doing now in helping so many people, not just here in the U.S., but around the world, with her message, with her stories, but even understanding the system and how things work. And you just mentioned two critical components of the system of escaping. One is as a refugee, the other coming in under asylum status. And honestly, this is showing my ignorance. I actually thought they were kind of one and the same, used interchangeably. I didn't know there were separate guidelines or laws or rules for one versus the other.
Yes, there are rules. So when you are fleeing as a refugee, the process to get a refugee status happens abroad, but outside of your native country.
Okay.
So I had to go through United Nations High Commission of Refugees, and then I was connected to the ES embassies. I did interview, biometrics, and then they did background check. Many agencies, FBI and other ones were involved to see if you are clear. And I tell you, when I came to US before, and as a member of government, I had a diplomatic passport. Normally, it should be so quickly, like me, because I didn't have any history of criminality. But I had to go through the screening process, like any other refugees, which on average takes like 18 months to 3 years.
So in your situation, let me just, if I may, you talked about before you traveled with your diplomatic passport, which gives you a certain level of immunity.
Mm-hmm.
But as a refugee, you weren't able to travel under that, correct?
No. So, and it was surprising because when you become a refugee, like you are treated like a second class person. But I did tell God, I know I would face a lot of humiliations like you did, but help me to accept them and to overcome them. And that is a reality. So now, for an asylum seekers, you can come on a visa, for example, to come as a tourist visa, on a tourist visa. And if you have conditions that are of persecution, as I said, you can apply for asylum. And then you go through interview, you do an application. The USCIS government will respond that they did receive the application. They give you the dates for fingerprints, for interviews, and then when you are approved, you can have the same benefits like a refugee. If you are not able to find a job yourself, they can help you to find a job. They can help you to find like the basic housing and employment, as I said, so they qualify for the same benefits. And the other people in that category, who are the special immigrant visa holders, are the people like who served U.S. military abroad as interpreters or as contractors. So, and then they were persecuted because of helping U.S. Army. So it's another category. When they happen to flee, they get the same benefits as refugees and asylees.
So when you're seeking asylum, do you have to have a sponsor?
So when you seek for asylum, the sponsorship is kind of something different. And in America, I think they wanted to do a private sponsorship. It started, but it stopped. It didn't last long. I think it was just for 1 year.
Okay.
But you do not have to have a sponsor. It means like there are people who are coming, for example, for working visa. Those ones have sponsorship. But asylum came like refugee. They don't have literally nobody on the ground. They just rely on the welcoming community to integrate in the new community.
So now you're here in the U.S. and what do you recall your most difficult barrier or challenge? You already mentioned, having basically a meager wage job, right? You're in a totally different position. People don't know your background. They don't know what you were doing, in your life in your country. They just see you as this person who's here in the US. And unfortunately, we're equipped with our biases, right? We don't know, and so we take what the media tells us, and then we shape this unfortunate narrative about someone like you. So can you walk us through just that, just mentally, emotionally, what did you have to face? And then how did you find the resilience to just still press through, even though it was dark at that time?
Yeah. So my first good experience was to be met and welcomed by a case manager and volunteers from Northside Christian Church. And I'm very grateful for that, because when I got to my apartment, the bed was made, the food was ready, and then we had a conversation. So, and because I have spent so many months without going to church, LaWanna, I miss church when I'm sick or I traveled. But the first thing I do when I go somewhere is Googling the Catholic church close to me. So I remember my first ask was, where is the nearby church? Because I grew up in a church. I miss the church. I remember even when I was under insecure time, I did ask for a priest. Of course, people would say, we will find one. But they knew that my case was highly insecure. So it was just to calm my spirits. But they knew that they would not find one and they would not bring on one. So I think the biggest challenge I faced was like the program, the government assistant program is this way. You have to take the first job. And if you don't take it, you do not have government benefits assistance. So it means when I came, the agency that welcomed me, I think people tried their best, but there were two options. Either you could have gone to work for goodwill industry or becoming a housekeeper at university close to me. And I'm grateful that case manager did their best, but I think they were not trained to see who they are welcoming under the pressure of government. They would just find maybe the easiest, or they were not connected to the community. And I would tell the story how when I became the director of the agency that welcomed me in 2015, what I did change. I put community engagement as first thing. I did give the empowerment to case managers. So, for example, one position was in charge of learning English and employment. And I said, no, these two positions are key for integration in the new community. And I separated the two. I outsourced the English teaching, learning for the refugees, and keep employment and employment specialists and staff. But I showed them how to go out in the community to build a relationship so we can diversify the number of employees, because prescribing, like they were kind of prescribing the same medication to people with different diseases. If you became as an engineer, you will go to do the same job. If you are a doctor, you will come to do the same job. If you are, no matter trained or not trained, all were doing the same job. But when I was given the opportunity to lead that organization, things changed. And I'm grateful that I had a chance to lead that organization for 6.5 years before embarking on my journey of becoming a speaker and a coach.
I love that. You know, as you were talking, and I was off camera, I was just smiling. So here's the organization that welcomed you, and then you ended up rising to where now you're leading the organization, establishing new methods, new procedures to create greater diversification, opportunities for other refugees coming in. That's pretty amazing. So here's a question that I think fits with that. At what point did you go from surviving to now starting to think strategically? Because you're in this space. What door opened that you said, you know, if I can get through here, then I can start creating opportunities, not just for myself, but for others. And I believe the opportunities you created was legacy building, right? Because as you leave, there's still people benefiting from what you did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I happened to realize that storytelling was the game changer. And how did I become a director first, if I can go back? So I was working in a clinic for 4.5 years. And when they were looking for a director, an executive director for that agency, I was invited to be on the panel to interview candidates. And then they didn't find any. And then when they didn't find any, I said, why don't I apply for this position? Because I have a story to tell. I have experience. I have community outreach experience. Why don't I try? I remember telling my supervisor that I'm applying for the position. I said, no, you didn't go for being on the panel of interviewers. You didn't go for running for that office. And I said, I want to go and make transformation there. So the storytelling really was the center of our operations, because I used my story and refugee stories to make a change, because many people didn't understand why we come to America, how we bring at the table. And I was sick and tired to see people not understanding us, or just telling stories which are not our stories. So when I said, now I feel like mission is accomplished after 6.5 years. And while I was also doing that, I was thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. I said, how do I make storytelling globally? How I can share what I can do at global level. And then I went to one master storytelling academy with Andy Henriquez. So, yes. Investing in yourself is key, as Jim Rohn said. Personal development is very crucial. So then I said, now I used to tell the story at a lower scale, a small scale. How can I scale up globally? So this is how I learned about public speaking and then coaching. And I said, now I want to teach people how to build thriving community, because I came without a community and I started to build my own community, but the refugees community and beyond that. So now there is a study showing that 1 out of 2 people is saying that they are lonely in America.
Yes.
Like between you and I, one will say, hey, I am lonely. I feel lonely. And as you know, we are created for community. When God created a person, they say it's not good for just one person to live.
Yes.
He created a second one. So I want really to break the cycle of the pandemic of isolation, loneliness, locally, regionally, and globally. And I want to do this with wonderful women who are capable to build from home to global movements.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Patricia Rogers, and we look forward to seeing you on March the 20th from 11:45 a.m. to 4:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are bringing our communities together. Jeff Klein, he's the founder of Speakers Co-op. We're joining with Phil Harrington. He's the founder of The Connector. And then we're combining forces with Women's Prosperity Network, Trish Carr and Susan Weiner, and yours truly, Unity and Service. We are bringing you the tea. Register at the link below this video. Impact Speakers 2026.eventbrite.com. Reserve your seat, and guess what? The seats are on us. I'm Dr. Patricia Rogers, Visibility Strategist, and I am the CEO of Unity and Service, where people need people.
You know, I want us to sit in these two pillars that you just mentioned. You mentioned storytelling and you mentioned community. And so we'll start with the storytelling, because we know that so many women specifically feel like they've been silenced. But sometimes it's not that institutions or powers are silencing you, but you're silencing yourself. You sideline yourself because of just lack of belief, maybe fear, conditioning. And you're an example that you went from a known environment to an unknown without your family, but you didn't shrink. You blossomed. So before we go into the community part, what would you want to tell that woman, wherever she is in her life, that feels like my voice is caught in my throat? I don't know how to get it out. I want to speak. I want to rise up and be true to myself, be authentic. But for whatever reason, they're cowering. They've become wallflowers in their own life.
I will tell to this woman that you are worthy and you are complete. Do not listen to the lies of the enemy, who is there to make you fearful, to scare you, and to kill. Because God gave you all the power to thrive. Even the hard circumstances are make you getting prepared. You remember that before becoming gold, the gold go through the fire. We also, as human beings, go through the fires. And you remember Jesus also said, if you want to follow me, take your cross. He never said, take your cross, drop it off, and bring it up. So he said, take your cross. And he himself went to the cross. If he was not crucified and resurrected, we'll not be telling the stories we are telling today. So I want to tell you, you women, no matter the circumstance you are in, you are powerful. You are an overcomer. You are a healer. And your story has healing power to others. And this is where I came to say that the stories we were talking will open up. We're touching lives. Your story is a medicine for somebody, even if it's a painful story, because we all go through pain.
Yes. Yeah, I like how you phrase that our stories can be medicine to someone. Before we go to the community part, I want to ask you, because you've mentioned your faith throughout this conversation. So there may be someone out there listening and they're wondering, okay, how do I find that kind of faith? How do I connect and find that spiritual relationship with God? And I'm just going to ask, and feel comfortable to answer or not. When did you discover your relationship with God? And when did you find that it became stronger than you ever realized possible?
I think I was raised Catholic. And when I became a charismatic at high school, I think that is when the fire really came up. And then through different struggles, I grew through struggles, because I always was reflecting on what God says in any moment I was going through. Even through the refugee journey, I was saying, what God is thinking about this? He let it happen, because God also, Jesus was a refugee himself. So I think that, and I'm very grateful for my parents who instilled me the gift of faith. And then I send this one to my children and my grandchildren. This is what I ask them. If there is one gift they can give me, it's be faithful to God. I know everybody who is listening has a superpower. It can be God. Some of other call it universe, but I do believe God as a creator, he created the universe as well. But if you think that you have a superpower that surpasses your capabilities. So that spiritual life, sometimes I tell you, Miss LaWanna, I have an atheist friend. But when difficult situation will happen, she will say, Drocella, pray for me. I think even if you feel like you don't have that God within you, he's there. Even if you cannot talk, you cannot physically touch, God is there because he said he would never leave us alone. So even during this journey of refugee and struggle, not talking to my parents, he knew. And he made a mechanism for me to communicate, even if I didn't see no way. So he made a way where I did not see a way. So, and God loves you. Sometimes you feel like you are abandoned or why this situation is happening. God will never leave you in the trenches. He's there with you wherever you are. So, and also what also helped me, it's like training. It's like any profession. Spirituality is also nurtured. You have to have like Bible studies. You have to have retreat. All those things help me to grow my faith. So this is why I did tell you that when I got here, I say, where is the church? And then they got me there. And the first thing I did, I asked for confession, and then I did have my first communion. It was like baby shower. I felt like, yes. And LaWanna, what I didn't tell you is that the word of God is true. And every time I traveled, I had my little French Bible with me. And I do still have it with me because one of the things I fled with was that Bible. And that is an armor I will never put down. And I will use it on a daily basis. So that relationship with God is key because it has a meaning in every situation you are going through.
Yes. And I like what you said. It's, you have to exercise your faith. You grow just as you physically get stronger, you spiritually get stronger. And God has given everyone faith as a mustard seed. So if anyone has not seen a mustard seed, go to the store, look at it. It's the tiniest of seeds. But each one of us has that. But as we allow it to nurture and grow, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And also, I just want to encourage you, if you're still struggling with this, definitely reach out. I'm going to make sure you have Drocella's information is below. Reach out, have a conversation with her, but also know that you're not alone in your journey. You're not alone in sometimes wondering, God, where are you in all of this? I feel totally alone. But it's a sense of knowing that you know, and not always about the feeling. It's the knowing. It's a belief that's beyond everything, right? And that belief, that faith, we call it faith, others will call it belief, enabled you to continue to press. So without pressing, and we're still going to get to community, but I want to talk about the first community besides community with the Father is your family.
Yeah.
When did you finally hold your children again?
So 1 year after I arrived to America, thankfully, my husband got here, applied for asylum, he got it. And then when he arrived in America, our children had to flee to Kenya to start the process I went through. So I got here April 3rd, 2009, and my children got here April 10th, 2010. So 1 year after, my husband got here 2 years after I left my country. We were all graciously reunited. And now I am even a grandmother. My son, who was 14 that time, made me a grandma, and I'm very thankful. And I want those grandchildren to be safe, to be community leaders and servant leaders. So, we are contributing in different areas of life: health, accounting. We are contributing in transportation. One of my nieces is a flight attendant, and my son did the MBA in supply chain. So we are grateful that the dreams I had for my children through pain become true. And I want America to stay a beacon of those ones who need it, because we can be safe and kind at the same time. And there are incidents which are sad, because we came here for safety and security, but those incidents should not close the door for the people who are in need, because America has been a beacon of hope for those refugees for decades, starting from after the Second World War.
I want to just encourage our listeners, if you're someone who has an engaging story as a business owner, influencer, and you want to be featured on Business and Financial Raw Talk, the information is below. We'd love to have a conversation and talk about conversations that we typically don't discuss when it comes to business and finance. So we're going to jump to community, and then the community of business. So your family's back. And now you have a mission in what you're doing, as you said, to have an impact not only locally, but nationally and beyond. So what was it that woke you up to say, you know what, I realize what my purpose is at this point in time, and I know how I'm going to shape it in my business, in my coaching, to be a part of this positive change that's needed for humanity?
So when I arrived in America, I found out that I grew up in a community-centered culture. And then I arrived in America in an individualistic culture. But being a capitalist doesn't exclude to be community-centered. But I realized that loneliness and isolation is huge. Even in the churches, sometimes you go in the church, you sit with this person, and we worship together. After the service, you go, and the other one go. Next time you sit with another person, and so on. So in my country back in Africa, so we had what they call Christian communities, tiny Christian communities when you know each other, and when you support each other, you know where the people live, what are they struggling with, what are the strengths, what are the gifts they have that can serve each other. And when there is a wedding, you go to celebrate together. When somebody is dying in the community, you go and support them. And I saw something different here. But sometimes it depends also on the wounds of the past, because the wounds are taking us hostage. I couldn't survive. People betrayed me, but I couldn't survive and thrive without creating a new community. And I say I am lucky because now not only I can have an impact locally, regionally, but also globally with the technology, and then traveling as a US citizen. Now I can travel in different countries to share the message and to help people grow and thrive. But this is what makes me feel unfulfilled, because we are creating for the community. Through community, heaven comes to the earth, and I want to use that. And among women entrepreneurs also, there are people who are afraid to create a community because of those wounds and the betrayers and losing trust in the people. But not all people are not bad, but you cannot live alone. You know, in our culture, they say that one head helps you that to become crazy. So, so you need your ideas, you need your experience. I need you, you need me, we need each other. And this is what God asks us to work in a community. And this is why I want to say, hey, and there are people who have been wounded even by church leaders. But sometimes we take church leaders as God. You know, they are sinners like us. We have also to forgive. Yes. And I see forgiveness has a place. And for some people think, oh, why should I forgive? You should forgive because God asked you to forgive, and you are not forgiven if you don't forgive. So like people who made me flee and who wounded me, it's like some of the people did me the thing I felt like they just wanted to kill me. You know, but the grace of God, they killed me physically, not spiritually. But now I'm free because I forget them. And I happen to know as a Christian to dissociate and differentiate people's behavior from them. Because the evil doing isn't us, but we are all very good people. But the evil messes up with us. And I want to preach that message of forgiveness. LaWanna, knowing the history of America, I see many people moving with wounds for years, from years. And I want to be like one catalyst of bringing healing, unity, reconciliation. And also this is why one of the training I appreciated when I hear in America is effective communication. Sometimes the fear, you know, will take you back. Mm-hmm. But if you just cross one line, you will say, oh, why I delayed? It's like I was fearful to go on interstate when I started to drive in America. But one day I said, a Saturday or a Sunday, when there is no much traffic, I will try and go. And I said, Drew, why did you delay in doing that? You know, so there is always a way, and there are people of goodwill and good faith to help us in our challenges. It's a matter also of trusting the Holy Spirit. Sometimes you want to do things our way instead of doing God's way. When you do things on your way, you don't succeed. But with God's way, with the Holy Spirit, sometimes we silence the Holy Spirit, but we have to be silent and then listen and ask questions, because God said, ask and you will be given.
Yes. You know? I want to ask you one question, because here in the U.S., and it may be in other countries, in Western countries, but definitely here in the U.S., there is always this fear of mixing your faith with your work, right? Don't bring your faith into the workplace. And even as entrepreneurs, it's like, I don't want people to know that I'm, you know, whatever type of business you are, a Christian business, a Muslim business, you don't want people to know. But you are very confident in who you are and whose you are. And you're very bold in what you stand for. And the vision that you are embarking upon. What do you want to say to someone that feels like, I don't know, I think if I talk too much over here, I may lose money?
So in the Bible, they say faith without actions is dead. You don't have to cry, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. Your actions are talking louder than your words, including faith in action is one of the topics, because we know love is the center of all things. I remember one time people were saying, oh, Drocella, we should do this for refugees and things, because some people wanted to serve refugees if they come to their churches. And I said, I'm not there to preach to all refugees to come to the Catholic Church. I am there to help them to find the basics, the food, the people who will be volunteering, the people who, but I was asking people the questions, for example, because I know the power of the community. I was asking the case manager to ask them if there is a community they want to belong to. Because also taking the power dynamic, if you feel like you are superior, you will ask to a refugee anything, they will do it because they want to be helped. And that is not practicing faith by proselytizing, but you practice faith by showing love, kindness, support. So the spirits, the fruits of the Holy Spirit have to play in what you do. Because I tell you, I had, and I do still have friends who are not Christian, but they love me and I love them. And when I need help, I can ask. And I had a driver who was like a Muslim. And then when I moved from position to position, he said, can we go together? And I say, yes, because as a human being, I think I bared fruit for him because he saw that I was kind and I was not mistreating them. So I think practicing faith is most important. How do you practice love? How are you patient with people? How are you kind with people? So using those fruit of the Holy Spirit at the workplace, no matter who you are, no matter who, no one can challenge them. It's just do things according to your faith, and then let the action speak louder than you say, hey, I am a Catholic. No, if you're not doing activity that make people feel comfortable, loved, and supported, you are just sowing the seeds in the stones or on the rock.
Well, Drocella, we are almost out of time, and I've got this final question for you. So when you think about the future and history looks back on you, a woman who arrived in this country with nothing, who gave up what appeared to be everything, family, position, and came here, from nothing to building a thriving community with a global vision, what will history say about Drocella Mugorewera?
Well done, daughter of God. You were not stopped by obstacles. You always believed in God's power. Your surrendering in obedience to God was rewarded. Well done, my daughter. And may your legacy continue to flourish from generations to generations.
I love this. This has been so fruitful. I love this. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit with us, to educate us, and to help us to really understand the other narratives that are spinning and the history that women like you and so many others are building, and the allies and alliances that are needed to help individuals that are fleeing for hope in another country. And if you're out there and you're thinking, how can I be a part of something bigger than me? Again, I've put all of Drocella's contact information below. reach out, have a conversation. She's definitely someone who's open to come and speak on your stages, and it's more than a conversation about refugees. It's life skills, right? It's really life skills and being the best that you were meant to.
Thank you, LaWanna. The honor is mine because, yes, I lost and I gained. Because if I didn't flee, I would not meet wonderful people like you. And my life, my voice will just be like local. Now it's global. And anybody through your networks and audience who want to connect, as you say, I'm there. And thank you for the impact you are making and your brilliance and your impact. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And to our listening audience, thank you again for joining us for another edition of Business and Financial Raw Talk. Again, happy Women's History Month. If there's a woman in your life, which I know there is, maybe mother, sister, daughter, friend, wife, give her a hug. Tell her you appreciate her.
Yeah.
And also remember, in life and in business, when your vision intersects with opportunity, success is inevitable. We'll see you all next week. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Business and Financial Raw Talk, a no-holds-barred forum for leaders and innovators with award-winning business strategist and financial analyst LaWanna Bradford with the Bradford Group. With Raw Talk, we are empowering women to rise and succeed in business and finances and improve the world for the next generation. Get ready to get raw and real. Live each Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern on e360tv.com.